Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the finale of Throughline Thursday. What a crazy year it has been. We'll all agree it's changed the way we live and the way we work. We've all faced a profound and enduring impact. And through it all, it has been my good fortune to host Throughline Thursdays, where I personally have gained and learned so much from industry leaders. The pandemic gave us the opportunity to come up with this concept of Throughline to inspire and reflect. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for this opportunity, Baywan, especially Rahul and Gaurav. Today, we have a very special Throughline. We've had some amazing guests come on throughout the year and shed light on very interesting topics and enriched us. We will hear from 6 of our Throughline guests: Lisa, Cecil, Travis, Gaurav, Madhavi, and Amol. We asked them 2 questions. How do you think 2020 changed the future of work? How are you reinventing yourself for working in 2021 and beyond? First off, we will hear from Lisa Buchanan, Chief of Staff at eBay. I love speaking to all of my guests, but I have to say Lisa was one of my favorite guests. Her kindness and empathy shone through. She talked about how important it is to stay true to yourself and play your strong hand always. Let's hear from Lisa.
How do I think 2020 changed the future of work? I really think that 2020 has flattened the playing field. Regardless of the geography, regardless of the time zone even, and regardless of office location, we're all a box on a screen. In effect, it's diminished the benefit of being in the main headquarters, and it's removed some of the hurdles of those in different locations and time zones. It's an extra reminder that we have to make a special effort to stay connected to our coworkers, and no one has the benefit anymore of having special access. And I'm really hopeful that we take that lesson with us past 2020 to help all coworkers, regardless of the location, feel like they're a part of a bigger picture in the company. How are you reinventing yourself for working in 2021 and beyond? 2020 has really reminded me of the importance of patience and of practicing kindness for myself and others. You know, the picture of the scientist surrounded by toys on the floor, but uber professional from the waist up. One way or another, we all have that paradigm on the loss of the separation between our home life and our personal life. And we see it day in and day out in snippets and calls, and everyone has become a lot more human as a result. That's the reinvention we all need, the reminder of our humanity and the courage to expose it.
I couldn't agree more that 2020 has leveled the playing field in so many ways. Talented and intelligent people are everywhere in the world, but opportunity is not. Organizations can now tap into global talent and don't have to now fish in a small pond called the Silicon Valley. They have the whole ocean. And I agree that it took a pandemic to move humanity in the right direction and to be more kind, cooperative, empathetic, and understanding. I've seen this shift and experienced it myself, and it's been so satisfying. This great social experiment that has been thrust on us has helped in shaping our sensibilities. This will be a generational defining year, and as Lisa said, patience, kindness, and empathy are at the heart of it. Next, we have Cecil Plummer. He is the president and CEO of WRMSDC. I had the great pleasure of hosting Cecil Plummer on Throughline Thursday. And boy, it was powerful, moving, eye-opening, hair-raising, and for me personally, tear-jerking. The theme of his talk was belief is the first line of code. Let's hear from Cecil on his views on 2020, future of work, and reinventing yourself in 2021.
How has 2020 changed the future of work? I think the most obvious change is remote working. And remote working will increase and continue to be a mainstay all over the world from now on. However, I don't think it's without its issues. And I think that remote work will not be the only way people work, because I think there's a lot of assumptions when people say, hey, this is the new normal and this is how things are going to be. I think that assumes an awful lot. And I think corporations are going to have some challenges. One is, I think, engagement. People work where they work because they love their culture. They love their manager. It's not just about the work. And when you're at home and you're disconnected, I think that makes employees ripe for poaching and to be able to become disengaged and disconnected from the organization and to kind of lose that loyalty. And I think that's going to be a challenge for corporations that are going to ultimately, once there's a vaccine available, pull people back into face-to-face working situations. I think another way that remote work will be affected is that people will need the ability to connect with each other face to face in a work friendly environment. And what I mean by that is that people make a lot of assumptions that everybody's sitting at home with a perfectly, huge house with a space they can dedicate as an office that is private and allows them to think and kind of isolate. And that's just not true, especially for those families with children that are now doing school remotely. That's not working for a lot of people. I think the third thing that people don't think about is for those people who are single, and those employees who don't have a bunch of people at home to isolate with and to network with while we're doing quarantine. I think those people need that social work interaction. And I think you get more interaction, more innovation when you have groups of people together, bouncing ideas off of each other. And I don't think this is anything new. I think if you look back over the years, way before COVID, why do we have management offsite retreats? Why did we do all that? We could have gotten on a conference call or a video conference, but we didn't. We got people away together and we got groups together to bond and to bounce ideas off of each other because it's easier to collaborate face to face. So I'm not a Luddite. I'm not anti-technology. I think that remote work and some of the tools that we have are wonderful, but there's no replacement for person-to-person activity. And I think that finding innovations are going to become quite necessary. So that's how I think 2020 is changing. I think, yes, people are going to work remotely more than they ever have, but I think it's going to produce some very unique challenges and opportunities for corporations in the future. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But I think it's going to be a very exciting year. It's going to be a very interesting year. The second question, is how do I plan to reinvent myself? Well, I guess for 2020 and beyond. And the simple matter is I don't plan to reinvent myself. All of your skills and your knowledge are still relevant. And I think that's true for me. I think that's true for everyone. Being remote and having to deal with the coronavirus does not make necessarily one's skills or experience irrelevant. I think it makes it more important than ever. However, how am I going to change? I think the one thing we have to do is forget about everything we ever thought we knew. Forget about anything that we held once as sacred or assumed ways of doing business. That means you have to look at every single activity, look at all the different ways of doing business, and question them. Is this still relevant in the new environment? Will this still work in the new environment? What new needs have presented themselves in this new environment? I think that's something that I'm doing in every aspect of what I'm doing, whether it's networking, whether it's business development, whether it's maintaining accounts, whether it's operations. Can we operate the same way we have in the past? Do we need to operate the same way that we have in the past? What are we missing by not being face-to-face with people? What are we missing out on? What new needs have been created? And I think that's the main thing, is challenging myself to question everything I ever thought I knew about the working world and business and my clients' needs, and reconfirming all of that. That is the way that I plan to survive 2021. And I think if all of us do that, we'll all get through 2021 together. Thanks.
Wow, a retreat. That sounds good. That is such an interesting perspective. I agree with Cecil that the office ecosystem is so different. You don't just go and sit in an office. It's about collaboration, eye to eye contact, making connections, and that energy that you get by being with people is irreplaceable. But also, traditional office structures are probably a thing of the past. And we've talked about digital transformations in our tech talks, and it's truly come into our workplace and our lives. It's not just on the fringes, but it's mainstream now. Maybe being in the office will be more for collaboration and creative work, or think about a grand meetup, somewhere where it's half work, half play. We used to be in the office 46 to 48 weeks, and 4 weeks away, we're just basically flipping that equation. We come together for maybe, short, intense bursts of creativity and collaboration. And I absolutely 100% agree that it will be all about reinvention and reimagination of traditional models. Disruption will be key, and businesses just can't go on as usual. Going back to normal probably won't happen. And traditional models will be threatened. So we have to really challenge ourselves and think ahead. Next up, we have Travis Killion. He is the VP of e-commerce at VitaminWorld. He talked about his unique leadership style that focuses on multidimensionality. I have to say that talk left an indelible mark on me, especially when he said that his sense of self includes his team. It so resonated with me. Let's hear from Travis.
Hello, everyone. My name is Travis Killion. Throughline has asked for a special year in review webinar where they have proposed 2 big questions, and I get to take a crack at answering them. Hopefully you'll find my responses interesting and maybe even insightful. First big question, how do you think 2020 changed the future of work? So there's an assumption here that I think it changed it, and I absolutely do, and in numerous ways. But let me go ahead and focus on the ones I think are the biggest. First, remote work has been a part of the culture of many companies for years now. However, it's been an exception to the rule in general and has required specific policies to manage instead of, say, just coming to the office. There's been a premium placed on face-to-face time, resulting in the need for additional travel and expenses. 2020 has forced many companies to adjust to remote workforce, resulting in a crash course on how to manage employees and their efforts. I think this change will not return to the same levels prior to COVID. In fact, companies like VitaminWorld have downsized their corporate office spaces while also hiring more remote staff. This has been necessary in order to remain viable, but it also means that this is our new model of work. We have to keep facing and overcoming the challenges presented by this change to ensure that we are productive, informed, and creating a culture that takes care of our employees. The second key change is people's adoption of digital services as a primary means of engaging with businesses. Grocery stores have seen a huge boost to their delivery and BOPIS services, that is, buy online and pick up in store. For many, they had to make immediate investments into their technology and operations in order to effectively serve their customers. While brick and mortar stores will not go away, the growth on e-commerce services and capabilities will only continue to strengthen and improve. It's worth noting that the back-end systems will also improve to empower employees with the tools to better manage these digital services and capabilities. It's because it's so simple that e-commerce growth is not just about a website. It's about all the systems that impact a customer's experience to earn their trust and loyalty. All right, second big question. How are you reinventing yourself for working in 2021 and beyond? Great question. Everybody should ask this question of themselves, maybe not every year, but at least frequently enough, because it's a great question that leads to insight in where you can make improvements. So I want to focus on 2 aspects for myself personally and how I'm looking at managing or changing as I go forward into 2021. The first is that I've had to include my home office as an extension of my capabilities to deliver work. Before COVID, I mainly worked out of a corporate office where I was provided hardware, bandwidth, and a workspace. Now that I'm 100% remote, it's become a necessity, right, to consider my home bandwidth and space for working as a part of my deliverables. Because they impact my work so significantly, it has to be managed. But it also means that how I achieve balance in my life also needs a more conscious effort, given it's easier to have a day of run-on meetings, and it gets in the way of other healthy activities like eating and, exercise. This is a marathon. Now there is more that I have to manage, right, in order to maintain that balance because it's all in the home. So now I need to focus on what helps me become productive, creative, and impactful. So while there's also on one side, it's the space and the technologies I have for communicating. It also means that who I am in these meetings also needs to change. Because it used to be that in a meeting, right, you should really keep to the topic at hand, strictly professional manner, right? It's kind of the game plan you have. Then after the meeting, you can talk with your work associates, walking back from the meeting room to your cubes, going to a water cooler. However, today now there's no longer the hallways or the water cooler to gather around. And those other communication channels are very important. So at the same time, it's become commonplace now to hear children, dogs, and other background noises or interruptions while meetings are taking place. In fact, the dress code has become more relaxed, and I've seen more bad hair days in 2020 than the last 10 years combined. This means that while there's still a need to be focused and driving the conversation forward, we also need time for connecting and building relationships inside the business meetings instead of waiting for some moment outside of them. So my objectives for leading meetings has become more complicated because I have to manage my desire to get right into the details, but also to be aware of the human element and to make sure not only is it managed, also that it is leveraged.
Yeah, again, such great points from Travis. Again, tech is not on the fringes. It's mainstream now. It's creeped into everything we do. Everything that can be online will be online. And companies like Twitter, Barclays already announcing work from home will be the way of the future. We've been seeing doctors online and school is already online. It's such a big shift and it's here to stay. It will truly change the jobs of the future as well. It's something to really think about. And he's so right that it's a marathon, and I would say that it's an endurance marathon. We have to find moments for deep work when everything is so enmeshed. And I feel having an efficient, safe space is so important for that. And I also agree that as a leader, you've got to be cognizant of the point that you're trying to make in a meeting. And also be aware of the human element of the situation we all find ourselves in and understand it and leverage it. That is such a brilliant point by Travis. And I have to say that true, deep well-being of people and employees has to come to the forefront. And it has, creating spaces and dialogues that nurture. And leaders are already communicating that you are important. I feel that holds true for me, and I am passing on the same message to my teams. Next, we're going to hear from Gaurav Rastogi. Everybody knows him. He is the think tank and spiritual guru at Bay One. All of our marketing endeavors and our facelifts would not have been possible without him. Let's hear his reflections about 2020 and what's coming up in 2021.
So your question is, how has 2020 changed the future of work? I wrote about this actually at the beginning of the year, and I noticed three things that are shaping the future of work. The first was the increasing influx of technology into every business and the creation of hyphen-tech businesses, and eventually tech becoming the mainline part of every industry. The second was the increase of automation and how automation is going to reshape the work landscape. And the third was reskilling and how reskilling and creating of ecosystems in which reskilling can happen within industries and jobs is going to be an important part of the future of work. How 2020 has changed that is that the influx of technology has become more mainstream. Many years worth of transformation have happened in just 1 year, including in the leadership's mindset, where they may be resisting it previously, but not anymore. Automation, which was probably going to happen slowly over the next few years, will happen in an accelerated fashion, as will the need for reskilling because of these two reasons. What I missed out at the beginning of the year, or did not anticipate, was that we're all working from home. We've all got used to being productive while working from home, and that changes where companies are going to hire, who they're going to hire, and how everyone will work together in seamless teams. And now the future of work is closer and more interesting than it was at the beginning of the year. Your next question is really interesting, Neha. Your question is, how am I reinventing myself for 2020? I'm doing 4 things. The first is I'm focusing on my own strengths and making sure that I understand what my strengths are, that I'm building strengths in new areas and emphasizing my strengths as I go out and create a personal brand, which is the second thing, which is I'm creating a personal brand for myself on social media, online, as well as in my relationships. And this brand is different from what it used to be. And so I'm also reinventing my personal brand as we go along. The third thing is I'm creating and nurturing a community around myself. People who support me, but also people who challenge me, test me, and help me grow and reinvent myself. The fourth thing is that I am increasing the amount of experimentation I'm doing. I'm doing new things, not in a half-hearted way, but in a firm way, seeing how that works out. And what I've been seeing this year as I've been experimenting is you run a few experiments, many of them fail, but you never lose the data that comes out of that experiment. You end up using that insight in a later experiment or a later idea. So those are the 4 things I'm doing to reinvent myself in 2021 and beyond.
Gaurav, always so good and such a clear perspective. He is right on. And I want to say how important reskilling is. We are in a knowledge economy. We will be leveraging new models. It will maybe be a college for life mentality that we need to tune to than just a 4-year education starting at the age of 18. And there will be a whole new cadre of jobs. And with this changing world, we all will be having a different conversation with our kids when they're ready to go to college for what field they should consider. I'm so excited about the future of work and the future of jobs. Next up is Madhavi Bhasin. She heads diversity, equity, and inclusion at Okta. I had such a great conversation with her on Throughline, and her theme was passion isn't enough, and you've got to have a game plan to advance DEI causes. Let's hear her reflections on 2020 and what's in store in 2021.
Hello, everyone. My name is Madhavi Bhasin, and I am the head of diversity, inclusion, and belonging at Okta. Excited to join you to share a few thoughts on this year and looking ahead to 2021. This year definitely has been one for the history books. I think rarely there has been an historical event which has changed the way we live and work in such deep ways in such short a span of time. So this has been, for the lack of a better word, a super interesting year. For me, in terms of the lens of diversity and inclusion, I think there have been a few changes and impacts this year. First, definitely, is the impact on inclusion. This year definitely has expanded more opportunities, especially in the tech space, for people to be part of teams, to be included. Everybody is remote. It's kind of a level playing field for many people. And the geographical spread of opportunities has definitely been a huge impact, especially in the tech sector. while at the same time, the sense of community and connection that people found in coming together has been negatively impacted. So it's super interesting to see that how on the individual level, people feel kind of being able to have access to more opportunities, while at the sense of the level of the community, it's becoming more and more challenging to build that sense of belonging and connection among people. In terms of the year ahead, I definitely think a few things to keep in mind. Learning the lessons from this year are, I would definitely say, setting boundaries as we head into the next year. Though there is some light at the end of the tunnel, a lot of the challenges might continue. So for me personally, and my recommendation to many people would be, have a strategy in terms of your work-life integration, of how do you want to balance your responsibilities on both fronts, and also create and set boundaries and commit yourselves to following those boundaries as well. In terms of my larger commitment to the DIB cause, I definitely think 2021 is going to be a super interesting year where we will see a greater sense of creating opportunities around justice and equity. So that piece is kind of exciting, and hopefully we will continue to be resilient and be excited for the year ahead. Thank you so much.
So to hear from Madhavi, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I, again, agree with her wholeheartedly. It is so important to set boundaries and say no. It's so important to do that. Working from home has blurred the boundaries between work and home. And it is so important to protect your energy in these times. And things that I have been doing, I want to share, are writing ideas, breathing, stretching, and also creating a nurturing space for myself where I can work deeply. And, you know, I agree with Madhavi that DEI causes have come to the limelight and forefront this year, but a lot of work still needs to be done. And I also feel this year and, you know, the coming year, organizations will express their values more explicitly around diversity, equity, and inclusion. I know that at Bay One, we have moved the needle and continuously strive to do so through programs like Make Tech Purple, trainings, and learning cohorts. There is truly right now an appreciation for the authentic. Next up, we have Amol. Amol was a guest on Tech Talk Tuesday, and we all loved his insights on achieving work-life harmony. Let's hear from him.
Those of us who are working remotely have realized that we can do a lot more online than we ever imagined. The digital tools that we use are going way beyond video chatting and online shopping. Today, we can do our doctor visits online. Our kids are learning in online schools. Businesses and government is using all online processes wherever they can avoid contact. So this digital transformation that was already in process has been accelerated because of this pandemic. And we have realized that all the tools that we needed are already here and they almost work perfectly for us. So this will have profound impact on the way we work in 2021 and beyond. The first and foremost impact will be we will all have virtual teams. We'll have to learn to lead and participate and contribute virtually. Our customer experience will evolve and it will keep changing constantly and at a rapid speed than we have ever imagined. Our workforce will be remote. The work that can be standardized will be portable and it will be moved to remote areas or low-cost areas. We are still in the phase 1 of how we work remotely. The phase 2 will be when people will come together only for critical decision-making meetings and everything else will be handled via IM chats or some kind of tool that allows you to do collaboration without actually talking to a person. Phase 3 will be when we will do work when we are most productive. If you like to work in the morning, you will work in the morning and not in the evening. That's how these things will evolve. The most important change is automation will be accelerated. Healthcare industry will grow. Education industry will grow. And the biggest impact for professionals who are watching this, in my opinion, will be online learning, self-learning. All of us will have to learn on our own. We'll have to use these tools to be in a self-learning mode and grow professionally over a period of time. This will be a fantastic time if you can learn these tools, if you can expand your network and connect with everybody virtually and figure out a way to add value virtually to your teams and to your businesses. Thank you. One of the things I have learned in 2020 is that we need to focus on a wide range of goals to reinvent ourselves. So what I'm going to do in coming weeks is focus on multiple set of goals which are emotional, economic, professional, social, and most importantly physical. So how do we develop goals in all of these areas and probably take one goal and go after it that makes sense? Self-learning is going to become a most important part of our journey throughout 2021 and beyond. So I'm going to focus on how I build my own ability to learn on my own using digital tools. Mental health is going to be a critical part. So how do you lead teams virtually while focusing on their well-being and focusing on their and your own mental health throughout the year, throughout the tenure when you are engaging with professionals? I think that's something I will work on through 2021 and beyond. And one of the most important part that we have learned through this pandemic is to focus your energy and focus your attention on things that make you happy the most. So I'm going to focus on those things as well. So that's my plan to reinvent myself.
That was great. Thank you, Amol. As you said, mental health, self-learning, these are so important in this time. And, personally, I feel like we all get sick of the camera in our faces and looking at disembodied heads, and we crave a personal connection. And I want to emphasize on what Amol said, and also go on to say that self-care is also so important in these times. These are important to keep a positive mindset, and the autonomy to work from anywhere is a good thing. You can now keep the temperature of the room at what you want, choose the food that you want to eat, hopefully healthy, keep the windows open, listen to the music you want, go for a walk in nature. Being close to nature has such great benefits. It's so important to get into the right headspace for deeper, meaningful work. Those were the reflections from our guests. What a great lineup. Thank you, Cecil, Lisa, Travis, Madhavi, Gaurav, Amol, for the videos and your valuable perspective. I just want to say the pandemic will become endemic, but in the near and far, we're going to encounter something again, and we have to pivot and adapt again. Best organizations are already solving for the next problem, and we don't know what that is. And I say this without hubris, that we know that we are resilient and adaptable, and that is what's important. With new opportunities, we can build something better. I hope you all enjoyed this finale. I truly had a blast hosting it. Have a great holiday and wish all of you the best of luck in 2021. Please tweet us for any questions, comments, feedback. We will be more than happy to respond back. Happy holidays and a happy new year.